Yes, start.
Okay. So a very good evening to all who have been in the room. So I, on behalf of the Tivlane, welcome you to the third weekly talk series organized by Tivlane. So today we have among us one of the invited speaker, Dr. T. Temsunungsang. So let me take this privilege to introduce today's speaker. Dr. T. Temsunungsang is an assistant professor to the English and Foreign Language University, Regional Campus, Shillong, and his research interest lies in the area of Tibeto-Burman phonology, morphology, tonal studies, and lexicography. So he has an teaching experience in graduate and undergraduate as well as in the research level since 2010. And he is in the progress of different works. Among them, comparative phonology of our dialects and languages is one of it, and loanword phonology, dictionaries and orthography development in Naga languages. And he has presented many other papers in national and international conference seminars, and he has given talks, invited talks in many programs organized by national and international institutes. So let me invite today's speaker, Dr. Temsunungsang, to carry on to start his talk. So over to you, Dr. Temsu.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for the welcome and thank you for the opportunity uh, to present this talk. And yeah, especially would like to thank Bijan as well as Monali, who are always working behind the scene. So I've pre-recorded my talk and it's going to be 40 minutes. So I'm going to share my screen. If you have any questions, feel free to post it on the chat box, or you can, we can discuss at the end of the talk if you have any questions. So, yeah, I will share this.
Temsu, I think sound, we are not able to hear the sound. Please reshare by marking including sounds. I think then sound will also work.
So today, I'll be talking about reconstructing Mongsen. This is a paper which I earlier presented at Niels in Kokrajar, beginning of this year, in February. So
Please
those of
lower your
you
volume a bit.
who
Yeah.
Niels, I think it'll be a repetition for you. So today, I'm going to start with a small introduction and with a small discussion on why reconstruct Mongsen-why. I present the Proto-Mongsen syllable, consonants, vowels, and tones. And then I move to reconstructing four consonant types. Because of the time limit, I'm going to focus on these four. And also because these are the reconstructions which have been challenging because of the number of variations that we see in the different varieties. So for those of you who are not familiar, this is the map of Nagaland, and this is the area where Mongsen is spoken, along with Hmong, which is the standard, and Chamki. So these are the three languages that are spoken in that area. Now, about 30 plus villages from of those who speak Mongsen, and I've taken data from 8 varieties. So this reconstruction is based on these 8 varieties, and these 8 varieties or these 8 villages are spread across 4 ranges out of the 6. So the other 2 ranges does not have any Mongsen-speaking villages. And the reconstruction is based on approximately 545 words in the data list. So these are the ranges. The first is the Ongpangkong range. This is the highest range, and I've taken 3 villages from this area. So as you see, we have some previous literature on these varieties. So notably, Cook's grammar on Mongmatong Mongsen, and also there's a PhD thesis on Kansa. For Longkam, we don't have any literature on this. Longdang from Masakong range. From Chamkikong, I've taken 3 villages again. And again, Cook has worked on the Warmong variety, and there's an MPhil thesis on Chungli Yunsen. Then the Jabukong range from Aunukpu. So you see, at least in some of these varieties, we have literature, linguistic work. But the data that I have is has been collected from informants belonging to these villages. But I've also referred to the existing literature, the data from these works. So if you look at this map from Mills, this is where 3 villages are located from the highest range. Then you have 1 from here, 3 from this range, and 1 from here. So I'm also looking at maybe 1 more from this range and 1 more from this range for final reconstruction. So why do we reconstruct, or why this work on reconstruction? Well, Daniel Brunn in 2014 in his PhD thesis, he reconstructs the phonology and lexicon of Proto-Central Naga. And Central Naga is more or less, I think, an accepted subgrouping, which is there in the previous literature. And this reconstruction by Brunn actually gives additional support for this subgroup. He uses the comparative method and reconstructs Proto-Central Naga. Now, this is an important contribution to understanding the relation between these languages, and this is the only work actually on reconstruction of languages, I think, spoken in Nagaland. To my knowledge, and even in Northeast, it's very rare. I think only Tangkul is the other, I think, reconstruction that is available. So, the reconstruction of Proto-Central Naga is based on Proto-Au, Lotha, Sanktam, and Kemchungar. So these are the languages part of the Central Naga group. The Proto-Au is based on Standard Chungli and Mongmatong Mongsen. So this is, I'm talking about Brunn's reconstruction. It's based on Standard Chungli and Mongmatong Mongsen. So the reason I'm looking at this reconstruction of Mongsen is that taking one variety of Mongsen, in this case Mongmatong, to be representative of Mongsen appears to be inadequate. So there's a lot of phonological variation within these Mongsen varieties spoken in different villages. And hopefully, by looking at this, shed some light on the phonological changes and processes across varieties, and also examine whether the reconstruction of Proto-Mongsen will have any implication. The reconstruction of Proto-Au as established in Brunn 2014. So, the reason is again Mongsen is again in terms of its phonology appears to be quite distinct and quite different from the other varieties spoken by the Aus. So this is your Mongsen syllable, where you have codes onset and a coda C1, C2, and then of course you have reconstructed a glide G1 and G2 in the onset and coda. And then you have complex nucleus, and of course you have a tone which is obligatory. So these are the consonants that have been reconstructed, and the first thing is with regard to the voiced voiceless sonorants. And in many varieties, there is this contrast between the voiced and voiceless. And then there are also varieties where this contrast is lost. But at this level, I've reconstructed this the voiced voiceless as distinct phonemes. But I will not be talking about this today. Also the sh and the zh, and in most of the varieties, in fact almost all, the sh and zh are allophonic, so occurs only in the environment of an e. At the proto level, I've reconstructed it as a distinct phoneme. And thirdly, concerning the reconstruction of the labial velar approximant w and hua. Initially, I've reconstructed this as voiced and voiceless, a contrast. But I'm going to come to this at the end. I've just concluded that maybe we don't actually need this reconstruction separately. And I'll come to this at the end. This is Brunn's reconstruction, very similar with the Proto-Mongsen that I've reconstructed. The only difference here is the additional velar fricative that is reconstructed for Proto-Au. Then this is the coda. Again, we are able to reconstruct 8 consonants at this level. Vowels and tones. Tones are pretty stable across all varieties, so easily we are able to reconstruct this to high, mid, and low. Today I'll not be talking about the vowels. Vowels are a little bit tricky again because there are some variations in some of the varieties. And tones, yeah, I'll be skipping that as well. So coming to the first part, this is on the stops. And here we have reconstructed the unaspirated and aspirated stops at 3 places of articulation, also the glottal stop. Now, if you look at this data, you'll see that there's no variation across all varieties. And so from this data set, it is very clear that we can reconstruct this to unaspirated and unaspirated dental plosive. So the first set is where you have unaspirated occurring with all the vowels. Then you have the second part where you have the aspirated again with all the vowels. So the reconstruction is very straightforward. Similarly with velar plosive, again there's no variation in the varieties, so I've reconstructed it as and k, aspirate and unaspirated. Then coming to the bilabial stop, here you'll see that with a and the shua, again there's no variation as such, and it's easily reconstructible to the unaspirated voiceless plosive here. But if you look at its distribution, especially with regard to the high vowels e and u, there is variation tested. So if you look at the distribution with u, this is what you get. So here, if you look at this data set, you have the labiodental, voiced, fricative, and this is very consistent, especially with Temsunungsang. This is the one. Then also have these words where it's deleted, and thirdly, you also have a few words where it is replaced by the fricative. So all of these, I have considered it to be reconstructed to the voiceless unaspirated plosive. And the variations here can be explained as spirantization. So stops becoming fricatives in the environment of a high vowel like u, and then maybe further going to loss or deletion in these cases. If you look at the Mamutong variety, you have the regularly throughout. But then there are some words like these where the is missing, and then which corresponds to the in these varieties like Kansa and Longjang and Longkang. And of course, you have these cases where it's deleted. So again, I've based on the previous reconstruction, I've reconstructed this with a and this reconstruction actually is very close to the Chungli forms, right? So I think it is suggestive that this is the correct reconstruction. So from our data list, we have 5 exceptions, which does not follow this expected correspondence. So I'm still looking at it, and I'll be able to come up with an explanation for these exceptions. So the exceptions, in a sense, these occur in all varieties with the pa, right? So these are so expected to change to a va, it doesn't. Looking at the distribution with e, very few words with an e, and then so here we see the words in red. You see that you actually have 2 forms in the same variety. So in Lungkam as well as Kansa, you have 2 forms, Mupi and Mupu, as well as these forms. So the question is again, where I can easily reconstruct the va from pa, just like I've done earlier. Where does the u come from? Similarly, you have these forms in Warmung and Ar. So in here is an u instead of an e. So again, where does the u come from? So in order to take into account this vowel change, I've reconstructed these forms with a p. In addition, I've also reconstructed these with the abivila, the glide. So the explanation being that in these cases, e is dropped, and then the abivila becomes a high round vowel. And here, of course, you have just the vowel. Whereas in the other cases, it is the wa which gets deleted and the vowel is retained. So this is with regard to the unaspirated plosive. The aspirated plosive, again, very similar in terms of behavior, just like the unaspirated one. So the occurs with R, E, and so there's not much of variation there. So it's reconstructed as it is. But when it comes to, again, with the high vowel, especially with the U, you do find some variation. So you see the variation there. So here you have corresponding with the F. And then, of course, you have it corresponding with an onsetless syllable. And then you also have the glottal fricatives. You have these three variations corresponding with the and I've reconstructed again this on the lines of how the bird behaves, reconstructed as an aspirated plosive. So if you look at the stops, I think it's clearly we can see a pattern here. So the unaspirated results in the voiced labidental, and the aspirated results in the voiceless. So, of course, there's an overlap here over her. In these cases, this overlap can be explained by looking at the variation in the other varieties. Fricates is again an interesting set because if you look at the status of affricates in the different varieties, uh, it's the difference. So if you look at the Cook's analysis of Warmong, he considers the affricates as distinct. So these are phonemic. But then he also notes that the dental affricates t and t are marked by their extremely limited distribution. And in his data, only 3 words which occur with other vowels. The remaining all occur with the schwa. So he explains that perhaps this is a case of merger, phonemic merger, uh, which might spread through the lexicon. Similarly, in his Mongsen grammar or Mangmutung grammar, again, he treats the dental and palato-alveolar affricates as phonemes. But again, it's like the Warmong case. Here, in the dental affricate occurs only with schwa. Again, he explains this as maybe some kind of a phonemic merger with the palato-alveolar affricate. In Temsunungsang and Chongliansen, these are varieties where, again, they are considered as phonemes. But if you look at the distribution in these 2 varieties, the tse, apart from occurring with the schwa, can also occur with the a, right? So here, in terms of distribution, it's more than the other varieties. So I've seen this distribution in the other varieties as well, like Haunupu and Chongjiang. And in my own study of Standard Chungli, as well as Mongsen, I claimed that these are allophonic. The distribution is allophonic, not phonemic, where the dental affricate occurs only with the spread vowel. So yeah, coming to the reconstruction, we'll see that in this set you have the ch occurring with all the 4 vowels. So here it's again easily reconstructible to ch. The aspirated again with all the 4 vowels. When it comes to tse, here we'll see that the occurrence is only with the schwa, as I've explained earlier. And I'll show that in the reconstructed forms, you can actually get other combinations as well. And similarly with the aspirated, again, it occurs only with the schwa. So the reconstruction here, by looking at this, we can say that, okay, there are these dental and palatal affricates, aspirated and unaspirated. But apart from these, we also becomes necessary to reconstruct these affricates with the glide here. And I'll show you why this is so. So if you look at these sets, this is with the R, and here you have this here and R combination in these varieties. In Longjang and Kansa, you have Z. So there's a correspondence here between the Ch and the Z in these two sets. So I've reconstructed this with a Z along with a glide here, and the reason the Ch occurs can be explained as a result of palatalization, where the ya influences the dental, then becomes a Ch, whereas in these cases the glide kind of deletes or is lost, and the Tse is retained. So with A, it becomes we are able to reconstruct this with a ya. Now, apart from the Tse and Ch correspondence in these, you also have a correspondence between Ch in the other varieties with Tse in Longjang. And I think this is the only variety which has this kind of a correspondence of an affricate and a stop. Again, what I've done is I've reconstructed this with the dental affricate, Tse, with the palatal. So here, what happened is Tse becoming Ch again due to palatalization. But in the Longjang variety, what's happened there is a case of fortition, strengthening, it becomes stop. So this is seen with all of the vowels except A. What's happened with A is that there's this, in the previous slide, the correspondence between the Ch and the T with A. And then here you have correspondence with all vowels except A. So likewise, as is the case with the unaspirated dental affricates, you also have a similar thing with the aspirated version. So here again, you'll see that Ch with aspirated corresponds with the aspirated. And again, what I've done is I've reconstructed this with the glide, and the same explanation holds that in this case it's palatalization, in this case it's a strengthening or rotation of the consonant. With E, you'll see here again a slight variation. So in all of these varieties, you have a Tse with a Schwa, but in Warmong, Kar, and Aunukpo, you have a variation with the Ch and the vowel E. So again, this can be reconstructed to Ch in the environment of E. And so how does this become this? I'm explaining this as some kind of a reduction in the vowel E, whereas here the E is retained. This has an effect on the preceding Tse, the dental, and becomes palatalized. And so Ch retained with the similar thing is observed with the aspirated counterpart. And if you see this correspondence between a th and a t in these cases, so this is reconstructed with dental aspirated in the environment of E. Uh, so similar to this, you also have a th, but in this case, this is slightly different from the other set because if you look at this correspondence, the correspondence here, there's a change in the vowel. So to explain this occurrence of the vowel, what I've done is I've reconstructed the dental affricate along with the uh, labiovila approximant. But again, I'm not sure whether it should be part of the onset or whether it could possibly be part of the nucleus as a high vowel. So something that I need to think about further. So if we look at the reconstruction of all of the affricates, the four affricates, here you have ch and ch, because with all vowels, it's not no problems with that. Z and th occurs only with we are able to reconstruct it only with the and the e, the shua and the e. So there's no za or tzu or ta and tzu. So I know this is a gap, or maybe I'll have to do a rethink on some of the reconstructions. And then of course you have the reconstructions with the glide here. Again, it occurs mostly with the a, u, and e, but not with the e. This is the, of course, with the w as well, occurring only with the e. So that's the reconstruction with regard to the fricates. The fricatives again poses a slight challenge because again the occurrence of fricatives, there's a lot of difference in the different varieties, especially with respect to villages in the upper ranges and villages in the lower ranges. So these fricatives in all the varieties, there's no distinction. So these are all allophonic. In almost all the cases, you have an allophonic distribution of sh always occurring with e and s occurring elsewhere. However, in Kansa and Aonopu, sh can also occur with the other vowels, but we're still not very clear whether it is phonemic in these two or in these varieties. So phonemic status is not very clear. Apart from this, we also have the glottal fricative. It is attested in all the varieties. Now, based on the data, I've reconstructed all of these as distinct phonemes, including the sh and the zh. And before looking at my reconstruction, coming back to Proto-Au, and this is Bloom's reconstruction. And again, he has also reconstructed at the level of Proto-Au these as two distinct phonemes. And his explanation, he says for Mongsen, the sh merged with sa, so it became one before all the vowels except e. So asha became sa, right? So the sh and the sa becomes one. In Chungli, on the other hand, a vowel following sh was raised to e. The sh pronunciation was retained. So in Proto-Au, asha, in Chungli, it will be ashi. So this, if you look at this for Mongsen, what this means is that something like sha, sh, and shu merged with sa, sa, and su. So basically, it became one, and as a result of this merger, when Mongsen had only sa, se, and su, right? Whereas she, it kind of remained unchanged. So the status of C in this explanation is not very clear because if at all it existed, it would have palatalized to she. I'm going to go with Brun's explanation in the Mongsen how this merger took place. But my claim is my conclusion is that this merger did not happen in all the varieties. So if you look at this reconstruction of se, here it's again straightforward. So, with a, u, is easily reconstructed to the se in the proto level. So how do we reconstruct the sh? And so if you look at the other varieties here, so you have su, sa, and all this with different vowels. In kar and onopu, what you have is sh. So there's this correspondence here of a sh and the sa in this case. So what do we reconstruct it with? Again, following Brun's analysis, I reconstruct this with the sh, and so this is what you get. So instead of saying that this merger happened in Mongsen, my take on this is that the merger happened in these varieties, whereas in varieties like Aonopu and Kar, the merger did not take place. So it still had both the Sha and the Shi occurring in the language. Reconstructing the show with an E, that's slightly more difficult because, again, we don't have that evidence to say whether it's really a sa or a sh. Because either ways, what you get in all of the varieties is just the she, sh. Because there's no correspondence anywhere with any of the varieties. So yeah, this is the summary where you have a sa reconstructed from sa. Sh is reconstructed from sh as well as sa. And then the sh, it could be either one, sa or sh. Then the last fricative, which is the glottal fricative. Again, here I think not much of a problem, where you have a h, as well as in some of the varieties you have it missing, deleted, and so yeah, based on this, reconstruct the glottal fricative. Yeah. One word, stand, which actually occurs. The variation is slightly different, where you have a h, here you have a y in these varieties. So in order to account for this, what I've reconstructed is the h with the glide. So you have something of a complex, again, cluster there. And in these varieties with the fricative, the got deleted, whereas in the other varieties where you have a the glide, it is the glottal fricative which kind of got deleted. So that's my explanation of this. Lastly, we look at these words with the w and the hua. This is the voiced and voiceless irregular approximants. And initially, this was reconstructed as distinct phonemes, but again, after looking at this data, I have changed my analysis slightly, which may or may not be correct. So if you look at this, the voice, you see that this occurs, there's no variation. The voiceless, it has a variation between voiced and voiceless. What's interesting here is that in all of these words, the occurrence of wa or hua is always with the vowel a. So you don't get this with any other vowel. And so this has made me change my analysis to saying that these would be constructed as an onsetless syllable and with a complex nucleus. So you have ua in all of these. And my explanation is that the u became a w. So kind of a labialization. And for this set below, reconstructed it with a glottal fricative. And this glottal fricative kind of, well, the U changes still to this as well. But here, what happens is her influences the W and maybe becomes voiceless, whereas it leads in these cases. So maybe again, with regard, we don't have much evidence with regard to its acoustic properties, so maybe that will shed some light. For now, this looks like a plausible reconstruction when it comes to this set of words with the wa and hua. In conclusion, today what we've looked at is reconstruction of some of these consonants. And apart from reconstructing the onsets, these sounds, it's also necessary to reconstruct complex uh, clusters, especially with the guide. And to wrap up, just to look at the phonological processes that we've seen here. We've seen spiralization happening, so the p changing to a v or a f in across dialects. Then we also see this deletion or loss of segments and deleted in some varieties. In Z, for instance, where the glide is been deleted. Palatalization, again, a very common process that we see across languages. Again, very common here. The case of fortition, and this is with respect to just one variety, where the affricates become stop. Then the case of merger of the fricatives in line with Brunn's analysis. And lastly, a case where the uh, becomes is reconstructed as u. But actually, that last one should be the other way around. So you have labial familiarization. So that's about what I had in mind today to share. So thank you for your patience. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Tamsu, for that insightful and thought-provoking presentation. So we are very thankful to you. Now it's time for question and answer. So the floor is open for question and query. So if any of our participants have anything to the speaker, please unmute yourself and speak. Yeah, does anyone has any question, query, compliments?
Okay, can I come in?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay, thank you, Temsu, for that interesting paper. In your reconstruction about affricates, so you have both the alveolar affricates and palatal affricates. And you said that the alveolar affricates occurs with a very limited set of vowels like schwa, and whereas the palatal occurs with all the possible vowels in your inventory. So why do you see it necessary to reconstruct both the alveolar as well as the palatal affricates? So would it be the other way around to say that there can be two possibilities? The alveolar affricates becomes palatal affricates. This is one condition, and if there is the condition, we have to give reason as to why we posit that. The other way around is that the alveolar, the palatal affricates, cha and the aspirated cha are the protophoneme, and then they become some sort of alveolar fricative. So, what are your guiding principles? Because we have not seen the data. We have seen only the reconstructed portion. So, in the absence of data, where we can examine, so there is one area. And similarly, about your fricatives, you said that you posited both the what do you call both the labiodental sa and za, as well as the palatal sha and sha and ja. So the same paradigms, the same question that I put up for affricates also applies here. Here you see it is a case of merger, where sa merges to sha with some environmental condition like E, when E occurs. So could you further explain as to why alveolar and alveolar affricates and what do you call palatal affricates were reconstructed? So should we not reconstruct only one of them and say that, for example, the proto what do you call or Mongsen, Proto-Mongsen has only the palatal fricative, no, alveolar fricative cha and cha, and they are then later on they become the palatal affricate cha and cha in other dialects. So these are some of the things that I'm curious to know from you. Thank you. I don't know whether you get my question or not.
Yeah, I follow the question. Like you said, well, actually, it is not possible to have only one, because if you have only the dental affricate or only the palatal affricate at the proto level, then I would not be able to explain where the dental occurs and when the palatal occurs in these different varieties. So that explanation is logically is not possible if I have only one. Same thing with sir and the sure. If I reconstruct only sir, then I'm not able to explain the occurrence of these two in the different dialects. Maybe I'll be able to do it for the sir, but definitely not for the Africans, because as I've shown, I've already reconstructed the ancha with different vowels. And so you see, if I reconstruct only one, if I reconstruct only tsa and say that, because I have to show the phonological process of how tsa changed to cha in what kind of environment. Now that I won't be able to do if I reconstruct only one. So it is necessary for us to reconstruct actually both, even though again, this is so when we do historical linguistics, this one of the guiding principles that we go with is the regularity of sound change, regularity of these changes in the different varieties or in the languages. So by looking at these correspondence and see how regular it is, we come up with these reconstructions. So basically, after you come up with the reconstruction, whatever you get, whether it is tsa or cha, should be explainable. One should be able to explain it logically. So if I reconstructed only one and not two affricates, I'm not able to give that explanation. So that's the reason I have these instructions, both the dental affricate as well as the palatal affricate.
Yeah, I got your point. It also what you call it also when you go for both the reconstructions, it also what you call fall in lines with what you call you have to fill in the gaps. So in the phonological inventory in the reconstruction, you would not like to have a gap. So gap is avoided when you posit both the alveolar and the palatal affricates. But the concern is why the alveolar affricate occurs only with a reduced over schwa. So is there something more to do with that? So if the what dental affricates occurs with at least 2 or 3 vowels, there is some reason to pose it. But this what you call lone element of reduced vowel schwa raises some eyebrows. So I was more curious to get some idea about it.
So again, this is problematic because these very restricted distribution. So even postulating that these are phonemes, uh, when it occurs only in very specific context, that's also problematic, even in the synchronic grammar, not the historical. So, and this restrict kind of distribution, occurrence of certain consonants with only specific vowels, and this is not the only. There are other such cases in these languages. So, actually, this restricted distribution actually is something that is kind of interesting to look at from a phonological point of view. Unlike, let's say, other languages like English, you can get all of these occurrences with all of the consonants, right? Very clear. But those things, I mean, doesn't happen in these languages in terms of distribution.
Okay, thanks for answering. Next, we have Moshel Saksangtheng Khaling. Yes, uncle, please go ahead.
Yeah, mine is a very simple and a layman type of questions. Um, what and why is this reconstruction for? Not only to the speaker, and I am asking this to all the linguistics people: is this reconstruction of a language is something to do with the linguistics thing, or uh, the, the the reconstruction, is it going for making a, a common language of those different languages?
Well, this is more of a linguistic exercise, not a social or political exercise. Uh, so, well, we do the reconstruction generally to look at evidence of how these different varieties, how these different languages are related. So, genetically related. So, that is the primary objective of doing such, I think, reconstructions in general. Of course, one could have different objectives as well. Uh, but yeah, the primary is to look at the linguistic affiliations, the genetic relatedness between these relationships. Like I said, the Central Naga as a subgroup is now, I think, quite well established. And so, but by doing this, we look at additional evidence to show that indeed these are all related. And so this is actually a part of a larger objective of looking at the entire Central Naga languages, how related they are from a phonological point of view.
Okay, so thanks for answering that also. So can you check the chat box? There is a question from Wicham Mataina.
So yeah, the question, I guess everyone has access to the chat box, so I'm not going to read that. No, in these 2 or 3 varieties, the labiodentals are phonemic. So we do get the f and the v as distinct sounds, as phonemes in these languages. And spirantization, this is, well, I've shown this as part of a historical phonological process. So spirantization, I think, is pretty common. I think, again, if you also look at the many Bangla dialects, I think you see this kind of a process where a p becomes a fricative. So spirantization in general is very common. So yeah, this spirantization with respect to the our varieties, this I think would be restricted to, it could be a 50-50 thing, because I really haven't looked at all of the 30 plus varieties, so I can't comment with respect to that. But many varieties have this fricatives as distinct phonemes.
All right. So, yeah. Do you have any query?
Okay. In the meantime, others can chip in. What about reconstruction of glottal stop? Assuming that glottal stops, glottal stops, especially the glottal stop, is the result of some kind of loss of tone. If you take the Barling's hypothesis in Garo, that Garo don't have tone, and then when because of the loss of tone, so glottal stop substitute the tone. So thus the glottal stop occurs both in initial position and also in the final position, or does it occur only in one environment across the dialects? And should you necessarily reconstruct the glottal stop as the protophony?
Yes, the glottal stop occurs only in the coda position in the synchronic grammar, and so I've reconstructed the glottal only at the coda position, again at the proto level. Like I said, tonal correspondence is very stable. So across varieties, the tonal pattern does not change. So there's no variation. I don't have any evidence to relate these two. There are certain cases, certain words where a k becomes a glottal. So there is this variation, but there are straightforward cases where all the varieties have glottal stop at the end in the coda. So for these words, I need to reconstruct the coda. But having said that, I think Proto-Mongsen is too low a level to look at these relations between tone and glottal. Maybe at the level of Proto-Au, or even above Proto-Au, Proto-Central Naga. Maybe we could find something in relation to this. But I think Proto-Mongsen is it is a very small subgroup. If you look at the tree diagram, it's going to be the lowest subgrouping in that tree. So I think the number of changes in that subgroup, I think tones may not play much of a role in relation to glottal stop.
In your data, does glottal stop occur with only one sort of tone, or could it occur with all the tones?
No, it
across the
occurs
dialects.
Across dialects, all tones, yeah, but only in the coda.
So any other participants? We have a compliment, observation, question, query.
I think our colleagues are shy, so I was interested with your what you call this series of voiceless sound nasals. You have the what you call nasals and lateral and rhotic. Or are the voiceless what you call consonants present throughout the language, or it is present only in some dialects?
No, it's there only in few of the dialects. So
And
out of the 8, I think only in 4.
so what?
4.
Okay. What is your phonological reason? I have my own what you call intuition about that. What is your phonological reason for positing them the voiceless consonants as the protoform? So, what could be the probable phonological intuition that you might have in your mind?
For postulating a voiceless,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's if you look at the marked unmarked status of voice and voiceless sonorants, the voiceless is more marked, and so I think more prone to being lost in the language. But again, if you look at the comparative data across these varieties, uh, well, I'm going with the assumption that Proto-Mongsen had this distinction and it was lost in these dialects. So this is I think, much better explanation than saying that it developed voiceless sonorants. So that's going to be a more challenging explanation to give. Proto-Mongsen did not have voiceless, but these different varieties like Arkansas, these independently developed voiceless sonorants. That explanation is going to be much more difficult, logical.
Yeah,
So,
I fully agree with you. The Kukichin languages also have this most of these voiceless consonants that you posited for ow. As you rightly pointed out, to prove the other way, saying that what do you call voiceless sounds were not there in the beginning and later they were innovated. So that becomes more difficult as well. I have not examined proto Tibeto phoneme reconstructed by others like Metisov. So, do you find the presence of these voiceless consonants, especially the nasal lateral, in the reconstruction of Proto Tibeto-Burman by Metisov? Have you ever checked it?
I'm not sure about the Proto-Tibeto-Burman, but at some level it is there, at some intermediate level. Yeah, I need to cross-check that. I cannot confirm that.
Yeah. If you check it and found that it is there in Proto-Tibeto-Burman level, it is very easy for us to explain, saying that this Proto-Tibeto voiceless sounds or nasals are retained in most of these languages, including the Kukichin. So I have also posited, and Van Beek has also posited all these voiceless nasal in his Proto-Kukichin. And perhaps in Proto-Tangkulik, Mortician has also posited them. So could be probably I was having the kind of thinking that it could go at the Proto-Tibeto-Burman level, this voiceless series. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we have a question in the chat box.
So yeah, Africate. Yeah. So again, like I said, It depends. So if you look at the literature, so if you look at Cope's analysis, he considers it as phonemic, and rightly so, because there are minimal pairs. Even if z occurs only with the schwa, it will, you know, it will contrast with other other sounds. So I can have a th, and then you have these contrasting words. So in that sense, it's phonemic. But in my analysis, I consider it as allophonic. It is conditioned because I make this distinction between a schwa and a high backspread vowel. And my claim is that the z occurs only with the high backspread vowel. So that's my analysis. But again, we actually recently we've just started to look at the phonetic properties of vowels, so that may perhaps shed some light on this two distinctions that I'm postulating. But yes, uh, depending on the analysis, for some it is conditioned, for some it is not.
Okay, so do we have some more question and query from our participants? I don't see any participants raising hand or who wants to ask a question or query or any compliment or observation. Okay, so Paukthang sir, do you have some other compliment
Yeah,
or observation?
last final question.
Yes, sir, please.
I thought other will come in, so people are not coming in. So
yeah, others are not coming in.
What is the level of retention of your reconstructed proto-phoneme, mainly here consonants, in the daughter languages? So at the rate of retention by the individual dialects of the proto-reconstructed phoneme in your language. So how is the rate, the retention rate? So which of the languages seems to be changing the most? And okay, why and why may not be the question. So at least that part. So of the 5 dialects that you have compared, which of them show more retention of the proto-reconstructed phoneme, and which are the languages which deviate more from the proto-ow that you have reconstructed? Mongsen-ow, yeah.
I think that's a difficult thing to answer because given the reconstruction of at least the consonants, it depends on the type. Actually, it depends on the consonant type. So if you look at stops, the correspondence is very similar across varieties. But if you look at the bilabel stop, then it is only, you see there's only with 1 or 2 varieties where you get the fa and the va, or even deletion. So with regard to bilabel stop, Mangmatong, languages like Mangmatong is very stable, so it retains the proto bilabel stop. But then if you look at again, if you look at voiceless sonorants, again Mangmatong seems to retain this maximally. But if you look at and Cha, like the Africans, I haven't honestly looked at which variety is more towards the protoform, but there's going to be differences with regard to consonant type, how much of it is retained by which variety. There will be differences. Yeah, maybe I should take a look at that and see maybe if there's any relation between the retention by specific varieties. So thanks for that. That's a good thing to look at, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Now, this will be the last call. If our participants have anything to be shared, then they can take the time. All right, I think there is no more question or query from any participant. So now I would like to request Dr. Monali Longmalai, the Secretary Tivlanai, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Bijan, for allowing me to give the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Temsunungsang on behalf of Tiblane for delivering a highly informative talk on the reconstruction regarding the Mongsen-why language, and it was very well detailed, and almost so many varieties of Mongsen were discussed here. Of course, it needs work, and since the reconstruction has been attempted, so I'm sure that there will be more furnished work coming in the future. I also would like to thank the participants for taking their precious time in attending the webinar today. And thank you to all the participants who have also been active in asking questions and being a part of the discussion. And thank you, Bijan, once again for the conduction of the session. And I think we have come to the end of our webinar, but there is an announcement to make. Very soon, Tiblani is going to invite for paper submission in one of the edited volumes that we have proposed, and that is Tiblani Papers in Linguistics Volume 1. We will soon share the announcement in the Tiblani WhatsApp group, and also send it by mail in the contact from the contact list that we have collected with the Google form. So very soon we will be communicating with all of you. So thank you once again, and we will see you soon in the next talk next Saturday. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.